I think there's two types of professional athletes, broadly speaking, kind of overgeneralized sense. There's a top tier, right, who are the Kevin Durant's of the world, the LeBron Jameses of the world, the Tiger Woods, the Patrick Mahomes, right? That top level where you're a megastar, you're a superstar, Lewis Hamilton, right? Like these top tier celebrities, Serena Williams, these people that are uh, superstars. They are celebrities. They are movie star quality, and they will get deals because of who they are. Right. If you think about Kevin Durant, I talk about this often, but the smartest thing he ever did in his career was going out to Golden State because they got in bed
Absolutely.
with a bunch of the venture capitalists out there and they got brought all these incredible deals and they wanted him in there because of his name, because of the marketing, because of the attention that it brought the company he invested in. Right. So he wasn't going out and sourcing all these deals. He wasn't taking these big shots. He was partnering up with the A16Zs of the world, the Sequoias of the world, right? And basically going along and investing alongside them, which drastically reduced the amount of zeros that he brought in and greatly improved the amount of the winners he brought in, right? So I think that's tier one where you say, hey, look, it makes a lot of sense for them to do this. But then you move to tier two. And my thought process on tier two differs from some people, I believe. And I actually don't think most tier two athletes should be doing any venture investing at all, or maybe a little bit of venture investing. And the reason for that is quite simple, actually. If you think about the S&P 500, say it returns 8% on average over the last few decades. For a venture investment, you basically have to be getting 3 times that, right? So 20 to 25% return on your money for it to be worth it. One, because there's a lack of liquidity. So in most of these funds, actually, you may not get your money back or see liquidity for 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years in some instances, right? Until you get access to that money again through an IPO, through an acquisition or something like that. So lack of liquidity, you basically have to double whatever the S&P is in my mind. Then on top of that, you have to think about the risk reward, right? So venture investing is a rule of power laws where basically everyone's shooting for a home run. They're shooting for the Airbnb, the Uber, the Coinbase,
Yep.
and those type of companies. And there's a bunch of ones that go to zero underneath that because the business model fails. It doesn't catch on. It's just not a massive market, et cetera. There's a number of reasons. So you essentially have to add another 8% or another 10%. And now you're looking at something that's 25 to 30% return, which is extremely hard to do. Not only that, but then you don't have access to that money for decade plus. So in my mind, you're much better off just compounding this capital year over year in traditional financial markets where you've had the ability to see how this works for decades now, right? You take way less risk, you have access to the money if you need it, and you're guaranteed essentially a pretty decent return relative to inflation historically. So maybe over the last couple of years, that hasn't worked out necessarily that well. But when you think about inflation, yeah, sure, they're saying it's 8%, but we also saw a market that went up 20%. Real estate went up 25%, 40%, right? So like every financial asset has blown up. And as long as you owned assets in general, whether it was stocks, bonds, equities, crypto, whatever it was, you benefited greatly. So like that second tier in my mind, it's much more important to just stress the idea of getting invested. And then if they want to do index funds, if they want to do the S&P, if they want to buy individual stocks, like sure, go ahead. But ultimately, you're going to be much better off versus trying to go chase all of those winners in the venture world because you'll have way less zeros, you'll have access to your money, and you're not constantly trying to hit home runs.